this shit together, hold it together. This feeling, it don't last too long, but I want this shit forever, want it forever. Don't let it pass you, hold this shit together, hold it together. This feeling, it don't last too long. I want this shit forever, and never, and never, and never. I'm a beast, they try to tame.
How's it going, everyone? Sean here from Ron Technique Studios. We're going to do a video breakdown of a free mix that was part of the free mix contest. I have songs submitted to me and I try to do it every month. I've been lagging a little bit, but keep submitting those songs. There's a video on here called Free Mix and Master Contest. You could also check out my website about the contest rules, about signing up to the newsletter, submitting your MP3, making sure you own 100% copyrights of everything in it. So go ahead, check that out if you want to submit for a free contest. I'll pick a song. When I pick something, it's because I find something that could be useful for YouTube viewers, and I just straight up really like the song. So go ahead, submit, and I'll pick one every couple months or every month. So let's jump into this one. It's called I Want This Forever. It's by High Def. I'll have some artwork for him up on the screen and some more links below, so check his stuff out. His SoundCloud is going to be below in the description. Now let's jump into the session itself. We're going to be going over grouping. We're going to be going over how to have your computer not drained on CPU, how these plugins really take up a lot of CPU, and sometimes you get stuck with errors and all that stuff, so I'm going to show you how to avoid that. And yeah, we're just going to show you how to print audio tracks and get it all going. So let's jump into it and look at how to go over that. Alright, so the first thing I do when I'm going in a session, if I'm going to be mixing it instead of recording. Recording and mixing, you set it up a little bit different. So I'm going to go up here to Setup, Playback Engine, and you can see right here you have your buffer size. Now when you're mixing, you want your buffer size to be large because the computer doesn't need to work fast to avoid latency like you do when you record. So I go the highest buffer size I can. So we have 1024 samples, and that's going to be good for mixing. Now if you're recording, you want to go lower on your samples. You want to go 128, 256, somewhere around there. That's going to reduce latency, so you're not going to hear that echo in your headphones when you're recording, and it's going to make it to where the computer's working faster. It's grabbing 128 samples at a time instead of 1024 all at one time like when I'm mixing. So mixing, go big. Recording, go small on the samples. Delay compensation is something you're going to want. These plugins that we're going to be using, or at least that I used in this session, take up a lot of CPU and cause delay. You don't want the delay in there because you'll hear that it's off time now. So what you have to do is to go into your delay compensation engine and make sure that you're making up for the samples that are being delayed. So maximum here, it'll make up for 16,383 samples. So if I have any delay from that point or less, it'll make up for it and I won't have to worry about hearing the delay. So that's something you're going to want on. Go ahead and press OK, and then that part's set up. Now that's great and all, but if you're using a bunch of plugins that are taking a lot of CPU, like tuning plugins, those things take up a lot and they'll crash your system. You'll get errors. So I'm going to show you a way around that and still be able to use all the plugins that you want to use to get the sound that you need. So right here, you can see that I'm using a lot of Waves tune plugins. That's a tuning program that takes up a lot of CPU. So in order to use all of these without getting errors and all of that, what I'm going to do is print my audio to a new audio track and then make my old track inactive. So let me show you how to do that and how it helps. So right here is one of my audio tracks on my hook. So what I want to do is set it up to where it's going to a new audio track with all the information, all the mixing that I did on it, the plugins. I want that stuff printed onto a new track. So I'm going to go Shift Command N. That'll bring up new tracks. I'm going to go mono audio track because what I'm printing is a mono audio track. Go ahead and press create. And you're going to have to change your output of the track you want printed. And you have to change the input of the track that's going to be where the new print is. So on my old track here, I'm going to go to output, bring it down to bus, and I'm going to pick a bus that's not being used. So let's go with bus 26. All right, so if you notice, when you change it to a mono bus, when you're going to be printing, it takes away your pan information. So if you had any panning on it, say you were panning it 30 this way or 100 this way, whatever it is, on your new audio track that you're going to be printing is where you're going to be putting the pan information. So I believe I was at about 32 or so to the right when I first mixed it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my new printed track. Now, my volume, it's at -15. If I leave it at -15, it's going to print at -15. Even though it says 0, it's going to be -15 print. So if I want to have control over the original volume state, what I would do is on my new track, bring it down to -15. So I'd match what it was on the old one. And then I'd go ahead and bring this one back to 0. So that's to where it's exactly as it was before. If you want to print what you originally had, or after the mixing, you could leave it at -15 and leave this at 0, and it'll print it like that. So it really doesn't matter. It's just up to you. Do you want the original volume printed, or do you want the mixed volume printed? All right. And then another thing you have to do is any sends you have here, you want to go ahead and drag them onto your new track, because reverb, delay, all of that stuff, it's not part of the actual track itself. That's not being printed to the track. That's something that's being sent to an aux input, and that is going to be a separate thing. If you want to print that, then you could go ahead and print that, but we're just printing the audio. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my reverb down here, because that's where the new track's going to be. Now all these plugins, they're going to be affected on this audio track and going into the new one. So if I go ahead, solo this one here, solo my new one, and record and enable the new audio track where you're printing, and I'll just do a little piece of it right here. I'm not going to do the whole thing. And go ahead and press record. Alright, so it didn't record because I didn't change the input. So what I have to do is input, go to the same bus that we had before, which is bus 26, and now it's set up. Output and input match up. So now when I press record, it'll be there.
Endeavor, endeavor, endeavor.
Alright, so it printed our track, and we could go ahead now, unsolo these. I'm going to unarm it because we don't need to record anymore. On this original track, what I could do is right click on it, make inactive. So what that does, it makes all of these plugins inactive, and the track itself is inactive. So all that CPU power that was needed to run those no longer is needed, and it frees up space. So now I have more power on my computer to work with the other plugins. So you could go ahead and do that as many times as needed for your computer to run smoothly. And as you could hear here, you're going to have, if I take off my reverb, let me sell that again.
Endeavor.
So you could hear I still have control over the reverb. I have control over panning. I have control over volume. And all that is still able to be controlled. The only thing that I don't have control over is the individual plugins that I printed onto this track. That you're stuck with. So if you need to go back, then what you're going to have to do is go here, make it active again, do your adjustments, go into your EQ, make a little adjustment if you need to, and then you go ahead and print the track again with the new information that you just put in. So it has your new mixing on it. So you're still able to do that. You didn't delete the track or anything. You just went in, made it inactive, so it's not taking up any CPU, and you're just stuck with that print. So you can always go back, it just takes a little bit of time. So that is a big way of freeing up CPU, is by printing your audio tracks. Now, let's talk about grouping. I'm going to go ahead and make this active again and get rid of this printed track. This way I can show you guys the grouping. So I need to change this output back. And my pan back to where it was. Alright, so say you have a section of a hook. And as you can see here, I have 4 layers of this little section. So let's take a listen to that. So I'm going to solo each one here.
Hold this shit together, hold it together. This feeling here don't last too long, man.
Alright, so what I'm going to do is mix each one of these to the level that I want them at, to the panning that I want them at, and then it's going to be set up like that. So I have everything set. I like the level of them as compared to each other, so each layer is in the right spot that I want it. Now, say I put the beat back in and it sounds good, but overall is too low or overall is too loud. I don't want to have to go in and make little adjustments on each individual volume. I don't want to have to go, okay, -2 here, -2 here, -2 here, and so on, because then it takes more time for one, and then you might not be able to get it exact. So if you got your volumes right, they're all perfect and everything, then you're going to want to group the section. So then when you adjust the volume, it's exactly equal. You're adjusting everything at once. You're not doing it individually on each track. So a way to do that is, you can see here I already highlighted them, but to highlight them, you click on the track that you want. You could either hold Command and click through, or you could go down to the bottom one, hold Shift and click, and it'll highlight everything between the 2 points. So now I have everything I want highlighted. What I want to do is do Command G. That'll bring up the Create Group section. If you don't do the shortcut, you're going to have to go to Track and then Group, and that'll bring it up as well. You can see here currently in the group is what I had highlighted over here. You could add more if you forgot something, or you could take something out if you accidentally added something you didn't want. I do edit and mix type. I like to affect my mutes, my solos, send mutes, and send levels, all of that. Then I press OK. Oh, actually, let's name it. We're going to name it hook, and then I can press OK. Now, if you go over here in the group window on the bottom here, you can see that I have it highlighted. Now, real quick, if you don't have this set up, if it's looking like this, then what you have to do is go to the edge of your window. There's going to be an arrow. If it's pointing just left and right, like you see on the screen, that's not going to do anything. All that's going to do is adjust your screen as it is right there. What you need to do is move it over until you see this little section here where it's 2 arrows, but it has a line in the middle. Then you're going to click and drag over to the right, and that's going to show your track and group list. Alright, so now we have our hook part highlighted because we just created that group. And as you can see, if I press solo, it's going to unsolo them all at once, or solo them all at once. Same thing with my mutes, and it's affecting them all at once. Say I want to adjust the volume. So what I could do is, if I pull down on this one, it's going to adjust all of these the same. So say I go -2, this -7 will turn into a -9. So bring it down -2. Now we have -9 here, -8 here. Everything went down by 2 dB. That's very, very useful when you don't want to mess with what you already had. If you had it perfect, you don't want to go in and do individual changes anymore. You want to group adjust them. So you're just turning the whole thing up or the whole thing down. So that's one good thing with grouping. Another good thing, if you want to solo it and just listen to it,
Hold this shit together.
that really helps out because you just press solo once. You don't have to go through and click every single piece of that whole section that you wanted to listen to. Alright, if you don't want the group on anymore, all you do is unhighlight it. So you're going to come down here, click it again, and now I could individually affect it. So you can always go back and forth, but it's nice to have the group set up, and it gives you an option to have group edit versus individual edits. Alright, so that's it for the main thing I wanted to focus on. I really wanted to get across why you use groups and how to print tracks to save CPU. Other than that, let's just jump in real quick and take a listen to a couple things and show you my basic breakdown of how I mix this track, or mix this song. Right here you can see I do de-esser first. This is just to capture the sibilants coming through. So if I solo this track here,
Hold this shit together, hold it together. This feeling here don't last too long, man.
so you could hear the S's, the T's, all of that. Let me bypass everything except the de-esser. I'll show you it with and without it. So here is before.
Hold this shit together, hold it together.
On together, you really hear that T come through. Now if I turn it back on, you can see that it attenuates on that T. So S's and T's, you'll see the attenuation.
Hold this shit together, hold it together.
Alright, so it's pretty much what it is compressing only those frequencies. So all this is a compressor for high frequencies, for the sibilant sounds, the S's, the T's, anything above the frequency that I set. So it's compressing everything from 4500 and up. I could adjust this to compress just higher ones or lower ones. So that's all the de-esser is. Now, once I tame my sibilants, what I do is go into my EQ. Now, every voice is going to be different, so every EQ is going to be different. Don't just copy a setting because your voice is not going to be the same as his voice. There are some things that I do on every vocal that I mix, and that is I take out some of this low end. Depending on the vocal, I might take out more, I might take out less, but I always scoop out the low end because there's no need of it. The vocals are not going to have a lot going on down there, so anything below about 90 or so, it's not much going on. But someone who has a really deep voice, just pay attention. You might want to give it around maybe 80 instead. It just depends on the type of sound you're going for. But I like to take out there, and then I listen for my problem frequencies and I reduce. I don't add on my first EQ. I just take out the sounds that I don't like. All right. So the next part is jumping into the compressor. There might be some parts that are a little bit quieter, some parts that are a little bit louder, and I just want to overall bring it into a more even space. Okay, so that's what I do with the compression. And then I tune the vocals. This one, I didn't do anything fast or anything like that. I kept it pretty much at the stock settings, 15 milliseconds on the speed, note transition, 120 milliseconds. I didn't want it extremely T-Pain type sounding where it's a fast note transition. I wanted it a little more natural, but not completely natural. I wanted a little bit of that artifact in there. I also did the key, set it in C sharp minor, which is the key of the song. All right, and that's about it for the mixing. I just went through on each track and adjusted every single one individually. So yeah, hopefully that helped you guys out. And grouping, saving room, saving CPU by printing your tracks saves a lot of time and frustration. So hopefully that helped. If you guys want to jump in on this contest, go ahead. On my website, there's a contest link. It shows you all the details of signing up to the newsletter and getting everything in MP3. Make sure you own all the copyrights and everything. Check out his music. Links and descriptions are below. Follow on my new Instagram at Raw Tech Studios. And also check me out on Facebook and Twitter. I'll have the links to those below as well. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
I'm a beast they try to tame, I'ma make them know my name. You're the ones who thought it was impossible, thought I was lame. Knew the shit was real when I was writing verses back in lane. In my classroom, bitches would ask, do you rap or sing? And I tell them that I rap, and they can't believe that. Asking me what I be smoking, nigga, where the weed at? With them tattoos, them J's, nigga, I don't need that. Then they hear my shit in disbelief at the East track, and I tell them I do this ain't no new shit. It's amazing to me how some people just view shit. I've been on some killer mic and I abuse shit. Doing this all day just for the music, but they don't understand me. Half of this shit is done for the family. This is everything I am, me, but it ain't everything I can be. You don't understand.